How's it going, everyone? This is Soul Singed here, and welcome back to my weekly video on BattleBots. For those of you who are new to this, I just give my predictions on each fight, then I watch the fight, and then I give my thoughts on each match. So let's just jump straight into this. First up, we got Rotator versus Valkyrie. I'm going Valkyrie just because I'm personally a pretty big fan of them. Extinguisher versus Gigabyte. Even though neither did that well in their first match, I gotta give it to Gigabyte, just because Extinguisher did absolutely nothing in his first fight. Slapbox versus Sharko. I don't know. I honestly don't know, because, well, I'm gonna have to give it to Slapbox, I guess, because I don't know. Sharko didn't look that impressive in his first fight against Smee, and Slapbox kinda held together for a few seconds against Tombstone, so yeah. Next up, we got Mad Catter versus Malice. Ooh, that's a toughie. I feel like this one could go either way, but personally, I'm getting to be a pretty big fan of Malice, so I'm giving it to Malice. Tantrum versus Adam 94. Adam 94 did absolutely nothing in his first match, so I'm giving it to Tantrum. Pain Train versus Smee. I'm gonna have to go with Shmee, just because Pain Train seems like a very flawed design with how much it teeter-totters. And lastly, Sawblade versus Uppercut. That should be a hell of a fight. Now, I feel like this one could honestly go either way, but I think I'm gonna have to give it to Uppercut. Oop. Alright, let me zoom out. Now, I'm aware that this is probably a horrible prediction, and I'm probably going to get most of these wrong, but yeah, there we go. And I will see you guys in a minute after I have watched the episode. Well, I think I can say, hands down, that this was the best episode we've seen all season. And hey, no controversies. That's a big plus in my book. So first fight, we had Valkyrie versus Rotator. Oh, and by the way, I guessed 5 right and I got 2 wrong. So that's better than what I've been doing. But Valkyrie versus Rotator, that could have been a main event. That should have been a main event fight. Because both of them looked very, very impressive. I think this looks really good for Valkyrie in terms of making the top 32 and in terms of being respected as a more top tier bot. Before this, they were kind of in the middle, like Kraken, and I think with this fight against Rotator, they've really moved up. And then Rotator also just looked very impressive. I hope to see both of them in the top 32. But yeah, good win for Valkyrie. Next, we have Gigabyte versus Extinguisher. Extinguisher, once again, wasn't able to really do anything. And Gigabyte looked much better than their first match. They were able to dish out hits. They kind of bounced around a little bit without breaking. So that's a plus. Still, they kind of seem to be a toss-up. You know, when they go in, you really don't know what you're going to get. So, yeah. And probably one of my favorite matches I've ever seen, we have Sharkoprion versus Slapbox. And I just gotta say, I love Ed Robinson. His sportsmanship, his personality, I love him. And it's sad to see this be his last year. But, yeah, Slapbox looked much better after this fight than in their fight against Tombstone. And their lifter seems to be pretty powerful. I mean, Sharko is a big robot. I mean, obviously he's 250 pounds, but it's a pretty big in terms of just actual size, and it was able to lift it over its head and use that lifter to its advantage, and the driving was fairly decent too. The only thing I just thought about was the fact that the only way they were able to lift them like that is because Sharko clamped down on their lifter. because as of now, all they can really do is just try to lift robots and flip them over. So I don't see them getting anywhere close to the top 32, but yeah, pretty impressive fight nonetheless. Mad Catter versus Malice. Both very great robots, and Mad Catter just kind of got lucky with having probably a 1 in a million shot with having Malice end up sitting upright like that, where they couldn't self-ride, because they can drive inverted, but they weren't inverted, they were standing up. So, yeah. Definitely think we'll probably see both of these in the top 32. But, yeah. Next up, we have Tantrum versus Adam 94. Now, Tantrum looked very impressive with their little puncher spinner. Their spinner looks like it could do a lot of damage. It's just so small, and I'm still not fully convinced on the whole punching mechanism. But they definitely do look like a top tier competitor now. Maybe not S tier, but definitely high B, maybe A tier. And then Adam 94, they've definitely improved since their last match. They're still having some issues, and I feel like in the next season or so they could be a pretty good contender, but I don't. They got a lot of things to work out. And then the one somewhat controversial fight, I guess, I've seen some people on Reddit discussing this one, Pain Train versus Smee. They both have a lot of issues. The whole point of Smee is to be able to wrap around their opponents. Their springs in their jointed wedge, plow, whatever you want to call it, seem to be far too stiff, because whenever it would hit and try to wrap around, it would just spring right back. So they need to try and loosen up some of the tension so that they will be able to wrap around like they're intended. And their spinners also don't seem to be all that impressive. They're so small, and they just kind of barely jut out of the side. I think they definitely would need some bigger spinners. Well, I don't even know if they can put bigger spinners, or if they have the room to do that, but I don't know. Interesting design, but definitely needs a lot of improvements and work. And Pain Train did look better. Their weapon definitely looks like it could be damaging. However, their little forks often hindered it, because the design to me seems fatally flawed with it teeter-tottering so much. And oftentimes it would teeter-totter upward to where the forks would just kind of slam into Smee and not be able to get up underneath Smee to feed it into the weapon, so its weapon was never able to get that many hits because of it. And they're still having some drive issues. Another bot I feel like could potentially be pretty good, but just has a lot of bugs to iron out. And then Sawblaze versus Uppercut. Uppercut hit Sawblaze so hard that their fuel tank exploded. We have never seen that happen in BattleBots. And Uppercut definitely looks like a team that could make it to the top, that definitely making it to the top 32, no hands down. But they look like a team that could make the top 5, maybe even win the Giant Nut. That's how impressive their weapon looks. So, and Sawblaze looks like a top tier bot too, and the fact that they just tore Sawblaze up like that really shows how well built Uppercut is. So yeah, out of this match, the ones I'm watching the most would be Valkyrie, Mad Catter, Malice, Tantrum, and Uppercut. Those are the teams from this episode that I would be looking out for. Those are the ones that I can see going pretty far. So yeah, that just about wraps up this video. I will see you guys next week in my next BattleBot video, and hopefully I will have another rap-related video out. And just want to quickly let you guys know that I do have an EP on the way, so make sure you look out for that. Don't have a release date yet, but hopefully within the next couple months. So yeah, see ya.